In this video I'm going to talk about tools and techniques to make a retro gaming video. So if you wanted to hear some tips about making retro gaming videos without spending a vast amount of money, this might be useful. I'll talk about cameras, sound, editing, video capture, etc. So first, cameras. If your videos are to include footage from cameras, the first thing to think about is what camera you will use. For someone who is starting out, I'd suggest that 1080p is fine for retro gaming videos. You don't really need 4K for this type of footage, though later on this may become the accepted standard for all videos on YouTube. If you've got a semi-decent smartphone, the video quality would probably be quite good enough for a retro gaming YouTube video. Most phones will do either 1080p or 4K, so that's covered. The microphone in a smartphone might not be that brilliant, but to start off it will probably be okay. Then, at a later date, you can get a more dedicated video camera. I've used a fairly old SLR to create video footage, or sometimes a GoPro. Either of these is good enough for footage for a retro gaming video. The one thing I suggest is get a tripod to mount your camera on. A cheap photography tripod will do. It doesn't need to be heavy duty, as you are unlikely to be using it outside in strong winds. Mine cost £25 and is perfectly fine. You may need a head attachment to mount your camera or phone on the tripod. Again, these are quite cheap to buy, mine was £23. For video footage from computers or retro gaming devices, while you can set up your camera and point it at the screen, you may sometimes want better quality footage from the device you are making the video about. If you are grabbing content from a PC, Mac or Linux machine, there are software options to do this. I use a Windows PC, so I'll talk about that, but Mac and Linux will have similar software. For grabbing video from a PC screen, I use OBS software. This is free and will record the video and sound going through your PC. Another option is the Xbox game bar. I don't use this anymore as OBS does everything I want. If you are taking video from a device that uses HDMI output, you can get a video grabber. This is a simple and cheap piece of hardware that you plug your HDMI lead into, and it has a HDMI lead out to the monitor. There's another lead that goes to a laptop or PC to record what's going through the lead. I run OBS on a laptop to record what's going into the lead. This way you can record video and sound from any device using HDMI. Check the spec to make sure it matches your equipment before you buy. Mine was £23. If you're recording from a modern console like a PS4, this has software built into it that will allow you to record footage and upload it to the web. You can then pull it down to include in your video. For sound, if you've moved past the on-phone microphone, there are a couple of options. You can get a cheap shotgun microphone to plug into a camera. SLRs and mirrorless cameras will have external mic sockets. Mine was £50 and came with a cat, reducing wind noise. You probably won't need this for shooting indoors. I generally use a lav mic. This is around the same price and will come with software you can use on a device that you plug the mic into to record the output with. Mine was £50. You might want to do some sound processing on the sound file. For this I use Audacity, which is free for the PC. I just use the noise reduction feature and do any other editing in my video editing software. For video editing there are many options, and this depends on your budget and available hardware. You can edit on a personal computer, tablet or even a phone. There is software for each type of PC, Windows, Mac or Linux. The most expensive option is paid software like Adobe. It depends how many videos you're going to make as to whether you think it's worth paying for this. A free option which will do pretty much everything as well is DaVinci Resolve. There's a bit of a learning curve with this as the workflow through the software is a bit different, but many pro video editors use it now. I started out with Windows Movie Maker, but this will only run on older PCs. Mac and Linux have their own software as well as Adobe and DaVinci Resolve. I won't go into this as I don't use these, but on the Explaining Computers channel, he goes into video editing on Linux in detail. You can use iMovie for basic editing on an Apple phone or tablet, and Android devices will have equivalent software. For stills and motion graphics there are also many options. I don't do motion graphics, but for stills you can use Adobe software such as Photoshop, or there are free open source alternatives such as GIMP. You can use F9 on a PC to screen grab. Paint is built into Windows. There is also Paint.net, which is free, or the snipping tool sometimes comes in handy. Consider whether using an older version of editing software might be okay for you. It will be cheaper, and if you're happy with 1080p rather than 4K, for example, it might do everything you need. Older versions of software can be picked up on eBay. The PC spec you need to edit your videos will depend on whether you use 1080p or 4K video. 4K needs a higher spec PC or laptop, and I tend to use 1080p for all videos, converting any 4K footage to 1080p for editing. Proxies can help with rendering, the software like DaVinci Resolve to speed things up. For script writing, any word editing software will do. I use a mix of Notepad, Word and Notion. Word is good for seeing what your word count is. Notion is good for writing scripts from different devices, for moving content around quickly between sections, and getting content organised. I don't use much music in retro gaming videos, but there are plenty of free sources for music. Consider whether your videos are to be monetised, either now or in the future. If they are, you need to use copyright-free music, or you will lose money from the video on YouTube to the copyright holder. Some videos will continue to get traffic for several years, so even if you aren't monetised now, you may be in the future and they could bring in revenue. If you are way off being monetised, you might think it's okay to use copyrighted music. Most copyright music is allowed on YouTube without a copyright strike. Proceeds on ads simply go into the copyright holder. Testing the video. Use different devices to test your video before you make it live. I use phone, tablet, TV and computer before I set my videos live. The main issue tends to be if you haven't got the sound levels correct. You might also spot editing errors or factually incorrect information. You can't change the video once you put it live on YouTube, and if you do re-upload it, you'll lose all your views up to that point. For further equipment, a piece of equipment I thought might be useful is a way to record overhead shots. I would use this for product shots, so not fighting my way around a tripod. I did buy a clamp to help with this, but it hasn't been used much. This was £28. Techniques for making videos. There are various techniques for making retro gaming videos. You can turn the camera on and wing it. Some people are good at this, some people are happy talking to camera. Some prefer to stay behind the camera, such as myself, but don't mind doing voiceover. YouTube is all about people talking to camera, and these can be the most entertaining videos. Alternatively, you can write a script and make footage to illustrate it, like in this video. Or another way is to record the footage, edit it into shape, and then talk over it. I use a mix of the above, but generally stay behind the camera. Sometimes a video will use one method, sometimes a video will mix the different styles. So that's some tips for making retro gaming videos. Hope it was interesting, and thanks for watching.